have been imperceptible, but others, like Saturday's, have caused additional damage and sent people fleeing onto the streets and wondering when the shaking will ever end. Um, let's see. Oh my goodness. Please forgive me on my pronunciation of these. As you can tell, I'm having a hard time with the English language right now, let alone others. I'm going to say this a bit. Guanica or Guanacia. Guanica, I think is how you pronounce it, but forgive me. A small coastal town on the Pleasant Inlet has taken the brunt of the damage. More than 150 buildings have been destroyed or affected, including City Hall, the local school. Saturday's aftershock, the most powerful yet since Tuesday's main shock, brought fresh pain. One of the principal roads into the town was briefly closed, and in Lugo's section of town, a hamlet called Abras de Guanica. Almost everyone had evacuated from the authorities feared the looming cliff would give way entirely. There's only one woman who's refusing to leave. A neighbor said, "Everyone else is gone. It's not safe there anymore." And it basically goes on to talk about the aftershocks. And let's see, the U.S. Geological Survey said it was most likely a scenario for aftershocks to continue at a diminishing rate and strength for the next 30 days. However, it says there's a 20% chance of a doublet, an earthquake of equal intensity to Tuesday 6.4 occurring over the next month. In addition, it is signed at a 3% chance that a larger quake might hit during that time period. Also Saturday, Vasquez said initial estimate that 559 buildings have been affected by the earthquake and that damages could total at least 110 million. But she says it was a moving target as some buildings have to be re-inspected and the damage estimate reassessed after each serious shake. Oh my goodness. This is. Let's see. Despite the continued rumbling, recovery efforts are underway. On Saturday, teams of workers were replacing transformers and power lines as structural engineers scoured Guanisa. Guanisa. So sorry. Trying to assess the damage, Puerto Rico's electric power authority said 96% of its 1.4 million customers now have electricity, although that specific town and others on the center southwest coast are largely powerless. Let's see, the phenomenon of shoddily built houses next to sturdy ones has created an odd patchwork of destruction. Perfectly good structures stand next to buildings that have rumpled or collapsed entirely. While 2 deaths have been attributed to the earthquake and its aftershock, no one died in the town. Something Mayor Santos Aceda said is nothing short of miraculous, and I would agree. There are other towns on the hard-hit southern coast. Was virtual ghost town on Saturday. Most of the residents have joined the estimated 6,000 people who are staying outdoor emergency shelters or have gone to stay with relatives in more stable ground. And it goes on just a little bit longer here with, pictures and just talking about the power outages and So I will definitely post that in the show notes. So please keep Puerto Rico in your prayers. Wow. So yeah, things are definitely ramping up. Two major events here back to back, but coupled with let's look at something else geopolitically here. Let's see if this is the article that I was wanting. Yes, it is. This is the New York Times. Let's see, when was this? January 9th. And I had posted this on my Facebook as well. Evidence that the plane was shot down. Iran may upset U.S.-Canada relations. Let's go down here and read. Montreal, new evidence indicating that Iran's surface-to-air missile caused a plane crash this week that killed 63 Canadians is likely to undermine Canada's already acrimonious relationship with Iran. But the disaster also threatens to damage Ottawa's crucial but fraught partnership with Washington. On Thursday, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau of Canada said that his country had intelligence showing that Iran had downed the Ukrainian jetliner, which was carrying 63 Canadians among its some 167 passengers and crew. But he stressed that he wanted a thorough investigation before reaching any conclusions. The family of the victims and all Canadians want answers, he said. I want answers. If it is determined that it was an Iranian missile, Mr. Trudeau will have to grapple with the question of whether the United States, Canada's most important ally, played a role in provoking the events that ultimately result in the loss of Canadian lives. The plane crashed on Wednesday morning, only hours after Iran had launched a barrage of 22 missiles against two military bases housing American troops in Iraq. The Iranian attack was in retaliation for the United States killing Major General Qasem Soleimani, one of the most powerful figures in Iran's leadership. A sign of the trickery, diplomatic challenges that could lie ahead. Reporters at the news conference in Ottawa on Thursday repeatedly grilled Mr. Trudeau as to whether the United States was partly responsible for what happened by creating a volatile situation. I think that it's one of many questions that people will be thinking about and trying to understand and trying to find answers to, Mr. Trudeau said. Richard Johnson, a professor in the Department of Political Science at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver, said the circumstances of the plane crash would complicate Canada's relationship with the United States. Many Canadians are suspicious of President Trump, and this is not going to help, Professor Johnson said, and it could help fan an already simmering backlash against the president. Professor Johnson said he expected Mr. Trudeau to try to avoid antagonizing Mr. Trump given the economic importance of Canada's relationship with the United States, a crucial new trade agreement between Canada, the United States, and Mexico is awaiting approval in the Canadian Parliament and the United States Senate. As circumstances surrounding the crash remained murky on Thursday, it appears to be Iran, not the United States, that was coming under fire on social media for the deaths of so many Canadians. I have no words. Disturbing that the Iranian government may have killed our friends and fellow Canadians. Payman Parsians, a leading member of Edmonton's tight-knit Iranian immigrant community, wrote on Twitter. Canada suspended its training mission in Iraq and decided to move some soldiers from the country after the killing of General Soleimani. Wednesday's crash was one of the worst losses of Canadian life in an aviation disaster since 1985, when a bomb exploded and killed 329 people aboard a Air India flight, most of them Canadians of Indian ancestry. Among those Canadians who perished in the crash outside of Tehran were family of 4 newlyweds, international students, and children. Relations between Canada and the United States have been strained for many months. Mr. Trump called Mr. Trudeau two-faced after the Prime Minister was caught on video apparently gossiping about the American president with other world leaders at NATO reception and Buckingham Palace last month. In June 2018, the ink had barely dried on the communique after a group of 7 summit meeting between, I'm not even going to try that word, meeting in Quebec when President Trump insulted Mr. Trudeau on Twitter from Air Force One, accusing him of being very dishonest and weak and making up false statements. So it seems that, well, the media is helping to fan the flames as well, but nonetheless, it does show that there is great strain between Canada and the United States. It also makes me wonder about. I would think that the Iranians would have had a flight manifest as well. It really, putting all the who said, he said stuff aside, I really don't care about that at the moment. But what is interesting that would disrupt, financially, would be this deal between Canada and Mexico. So that would be that would be an interesting play by Iran, wouldn't it? If that was the case. Now I'm speculating here. I don't have that in writing or anything like that. I would have to look at some more news sources, news articles. But I did find that this article, at least in this article, that was interesting that they brought that to bear, that this could strain this deal between Canada and America. That's been in the works for some time, some sort of trade deal, and that would alter that, or this very event could alter that from taking place. So it seems like quite a chess game going on here. So quite interesting indeed. Always more behind the scenes than what it really seems to be. As far as the two spouting out, I don't know how much of that is just media. I don't know how much strain there is personally between these two leaders, but this definitely doesn't help with relations between these two countries. So kind of makes me wondering about the backing of the United States. If that was to come to pass, these countries that used to back us, if something were to break out here, what would that look like? Some sort of retaliation from Iran. And I would think it would be asymmetric warfare is what they would do. So I don't think an all-out attack, but definitely asymmetric would be the way that I would think they would retaliate within the United States. That would make the most sense to me. Where would the support lie? Have we managed to upset the whole rest of the world with some of the things that we have done here, especially with the assassination of this individual? Where how strained are these relationships? Basically, I guess I'll just put it bluntly, is the rest of the world tired of America? I guess we shall see. I guess we will see indefinitely as things unfold. But not a good place to be as far as in relations and being in such stressful times as these. Not a good place to, not a good time to start making